Today we're going to talk about scaling Azure OpenAI services on Azure Cloud Platform by using Microsoft Azure together with Atlassian Jira Service Management, or GSM for short. In essence, we will look into how to combine these two in your organization to make OpenAI easy to use for everyone. Let's look at our agenda. We will start with introduction of the speakers. So there are going to be two of them, me and another colleague of mine, Chris. He's here. We'll get to that. And what kind of challenges we are solving for our customers as a company. Next, we'll look into ChatGPT versus Azure OpenAI. The main question to answer here is, ChatGPT not enough for my use case, or why do I need to use Azure OpenAI? Next, we will present the OpenAI challenges we have encountered in our customers. We have conducted several internal interviews with various teams, and in this section, we provide a summary of the pains and the challenges which we summarize from those interviews we had. In the next section, we will look into the self-service for OpenAI models in Azure. And this is our solution to the problems we have encountered in the environments of the customers. So this is the solution we propose to solve those pains we found out inside the interviews. At the end of the talk, my colleague Chris will show you a demo, and we will have a Q&A session. Right, so before diving into the main part, I'd like to introduce myself and Chris and how we help our customers as a company, not only two of us. So my name is Ivan. I'm a DevOps ambassador in Xalt with Atlassian Skills. I'm driving the cloud self-service topic for our customers, and I'm going to be your guide today for the customer journey together with Chris. Chris, also from Xalt, is joining us today as another DevOps ambassador. He will demo the solution for you. Chris, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, you've basically done my job for me already, but as Ivan said, I'm also part of the DevOps team at Xalt. We do a lot of different interesting customer projects together. And today I'm going to take part of the demonstration, and I'm the one that's actually going to go through our quick demo to show what you can do with Azure's OpenAI services.
Awesome, thanks, Chris. So now a couple of words about our company. We are Xalt Business Consulting. We are based in Germany, in Munich, and we simplify IT. Our mission is to simplify, apply, help, and strive. We make complex topics simple and help our customers to make decisions. So what is my role and Chris' role here is that we actually care about people, right? And we care about work that people are doing inside the organizations. And we strongly believe that people should do the work that only people can do, and everything else should be done by automation, right? And this is especially true now in an era of OpenAI, when automation is reaching new heights. Some people who do an algorithmic type of work can stop doing that, and then they can go to more creative tasks. We are very passionate about automation and about AI, and do it everywhere we can. Besides DevOps, self-service, we are working on other topics such as Atlassian consulting, cloud migrations, change management, etc. We also help teams with agile processes, productivity, efficiency, while reducing the risk by providing secure solutions. We're working with small, medium enterprises, as well as big corporations and government organizations. You can see a couple of our customers on this slide. As you can see, there are big ones like Siemens, Bosch, EEX, and other customers like Lovo, for example, and Bundesamt für Justiz from Germany. We're also working with various technologies and partners from cloud and Atlassian worlds. We believe in using the right technologies to solve the right problems. So Microsoft is currently the leader in the AI topics. You will see why. I will show you later how Microsoft provides you with additional features such as governance, fine-grained access control compared to ChatGPT. As you may know, Microsoft has invested several $billions in into OpenAI, so they basically own part of OpenAI company, and that allows them to embed OpenAI models into their solutions as well as distribute them via Azure Cloud Services. So our focus for today is Microsoft Azure, the one of the market leaders for OpenAI topics, as well as Atlassian, which provides the self-service solution. So ChatGPT and OpenAI is the pioneer in text generation models on GPT models. I'm using ChatGPT personally for various tasks. I'm using it for solving the technical problems as well as helping me to write emails to German authorities. That's my personal use case. And I believe a lot of attendees are using it as well. And when you go to a use case which is a bit more involved. So when you want to develop against API, you might ask yourself a question, why Azure OpenAI? Why not just use OpenAI, the ChatGPT models they provide? They also have API access to it. Is ChatGPT not enough? And while it might be just right for personal applications, let's take a look at why it's not right fit for everyone. Let's compare these two solutions. The main comparison criterion for AI services, in my opinion, is which models are available. The available models will either work for your use case or not. The more selection you have and the more recent models, the better your chances are to be successful with your application, right? When I was preparing this presentation, some of the cutting edge models from OpenAI were not yet available in Azure, although Microsoft invested a lot of money inside OpenAI. They have access. There is a bit of lag when it comes to getting OpenAI models like GPT 4.0. It's already there, but it took time. It's not as fast in Microsoft Cloud as it is in OpenAI services if you buy directly from them. So one setback between OpenAI and Azure that Azure is lagging a little bit behind in the model adoption. A definite win for Azure regarding model availability is that they have other vendors beside OpenAI. For example, in February this year, Microsoft announced a partnership with Mistral AI. That's a French company. They provide another model which is very useful in some of the use cases. On the other hand, you could deploy any other model from Hugging Face. So Hugging Face is a web portal where you can simply go there and you can download models which you can run locally when you have a good graphical card, or you can run it in the cloud, right? And Azure, as a cloud provider, they basically provide you environments to get any Hugging Face model, simply put it in Kubernetes cluster if you have one, or even in app service or a virtual machine, and you have it, right? If it's economically feasible, that's another question. You'll have to calculate that for your particular use case, but there is a possibility to do that. The next part where Azure is the definite winner is the data residency, right? If you check the OpenAI terms of usage, you can read that data residency depends on the user's location, and it's either in Ireland or the US. While in Azure, you can select any data residency you'd like, depending on the region where you deploy your OpenAI service. In this regard, Azure gives you more control. I can tell you more. We were attending Azure Day in Munich this year, and recently Microsoft spent some $1 billion to deploy infrastructure which allows traffic to stay in Europe. So they have a special option which you can activate and which allows your traffic not to exit Europe and go like to the US or anywhere else, which give you very good control and make you compliant and possible to use for almost any use cases. Now, what about authentication and setting up SSO, single sign-on? ChatGPT from OpenAI supports SAML protocol and can be integrated with any corporate directory service. On the other hand, Azure provides Entra ID as a first-class citizen for authentication as well as authorization in one package. Entra ID is a new name for Azure Active Directory, right? So the online Active Directory which Azure provides. For access control, OpenAI is quite limited with three predefined roles, and we will talk about them in detail on the next slide. While in Azure, you can define any sort of granular roles depending on your organizational structure and requirements. So, in this regard, Azure provides you more control, which makes total sense since access control in Azure exists for much longer time. So let's take a look at the example reference architecture of ChatGPT Enterprise setup. In ChatGPT, a user can have several workspaces, right? So typically, an enterprise will set up its workspace. For example, in Consult, we have our own workspace where all of our colleagues are invited and is connected to corporate directory via SAML protocol, right? So it's connected to Entra ID. The main advantage of running directly on ChatGPT is access to the latest OpenAI models. As I already mentioned, Microsoft typically has 1-2 months delay for releasing them in in Azure OpenAI. The disadvantages are one, missing granular access control. So ChatGPT provides three predefined role. I think it's a little bit small, but it's visible here. There are basically three roles, right? Owner, admin, and member. Admin can do everything. Then you have, sorry, owner can do everything. Then admin got a little bit less permissions. So admin can view billing, usage analytics, and managing users. And then you have a user which can only use a service, right? But you cannot have anything in between. Like if you want to have an admin, but the one who cannot set up billing, but can set up some other options for the service. No, sorry, can't do. The next thing is there are no policies. I cannot restrict users from using particular AI models. Why restricting? If you compare the pricing between ChatGPT 3.5 Turbo, ChatGPT 4, and ChatGPT 4o, the most recent model, you can see that for 1 cent you spend on ChatGPT 3.5, you're gonna spend 20 cents for ChatGPT 4 and 10 cents for ChatGPT 4o. And then the economical feasibility of your use case gonna depend on the model which you're gonna use, right? So in some use cases, you want to restrict people simply from economical reasons only to use ChatGPT 3.5 because otherwise your enterprise is not going to be economically beneficial. So it's not going to make money. Next thing is user management is on the workspace level. That's a drawback, meaning that you have one more place besides your corporate directly to manage users. You have to assign those roles. So yes, you can connect users from the corporate directory via SAML. The user is going to be loaded, but to manage the roles, you have to do it on OpenAI side in their interface. Now, what does Microsoft Azure OpenAI provides us? First of all, granular access, right? There is Azure IAM, that's a very old solution, and it can do anything you want. You can define any sort of roles you can imagine without any restrictions. And you need custom roles, no problem. You can implement it. Secondly, policies. You can have policies to restrict usage of particular AI models, for example, for cost-saving purposes. Um, Next, you can use the management groups and your Azure landing zone in general to organize OpenAI services for different environments. So it's easy to separate your endpoints between sandbox and production. What you have in OpenAI ChatGPT is throttling, right? So there is a request limits, and when you go to production, you're gonna hit those. Even the highest request limit can be hit by application which is under high load. So if you have a SaaS offering which you provide to many customers, you're going to reach that. And you do not want your sandbox environment affecting production if you do some intensive testing. And that's just general best practice to separate those two. It's very easy to do inside Azure. Moreover, you can organize OpenAI services in different subscriptions, manage budgets for them separately, get notifications in case one of the services is consuming more than your budget allows, And of course, you're not only bound to deploy OpenAI models, but you can also deploy Mistral or other models as well. To sum it up, Microsoft provides you an ecosystem where you can have your AI models, vector databases for embeddings, and infrastructure for your website all in one place. So that's the cool thing about it. The drawback, as I mentioned earlier, is that the hot new models might not be available immediately in Azure. There is one more thing. There are a couple of websites which benchmark the speed of the endpoints between OpenAI GPT and Azure OpenAI. And Azure OpenAI is a little bit slower, but since you can spin up any amount of endpoints you want, that problem is easily alleviated with load balancing, basically. All right. So just to sum it up, why Azure? Azure integrates Entra ID and OpenAI services into streamlined cloud ecosystem. So you're not only gaining access to the AI service, you gain access to the whole ecosystem where you can have a full solution provided in one package. Now, let's take a look at the challenges and pains we have encountered at our customers when working with AI services. This pains is a result of the interviews we did with our customers, and we summarized what kind of pains they have there and how we can help them to solve those. So in a corporate environment, you're likely to have a team dedicated to managing AI models and environments. So a centralized team, which we can also call a platform team, will be in charge of AI services. When you have such a setup without enough automation, the following problems might happen. First of all, the models are simply not sufficient for the use case I have, right? So that centralized team provides me GPT 3.5 while I need GPT 4.0, which I have tested with my use case and it works, but they do not yet provide it. Secondly, the provided models cannot be customized. For example, the environment does not allow fine-tuning GPT models. So the centralized team provide a chat-like environment for everybody to use, but they do not provide an extension where it can be fine-tuned. In addition to that, the last problem here is that the roadmap is not always clear. So even if models are not available, it is not clear when the models will be available and when I can rely on that. So if there is not a clear roadmap available, I do not know how to proceed with my project, which got its own roadmap and got its own deadlines. Next challenge. When requesting an OpenAI access, so I would like to have an OpenAI endpoint, it's not clear who or where to ask for it. And finally, when I got the request through, it takes weeks to set it up and grant me access to it, right? It's also not clear where to start initially, going around asking colleagues, or shall I look into internal wiki, internet, or somewhere else? That's not exactly clear. How does the access procedure works? We also have seen cases when API access to GPT models was not provided, which only allows GPT usage in limited cases, such as question answering individual usage, something like you've seen in a normal ChatGPT environment. Now, we have addressed this problem in our customers, right? I would like to bring your attention to the benefits which we were able to get from implementing our self-service solution. We're going to look at the solution in the next slides after that. So to summarize, before the solution was there, the pains are several weeks to get access to the service, path is not clear, right? And centralized AI solution is not flexible enough to accommodate my requirements. After we have implemented the self-service, we got one-click creation of OpenAI endpoints in Azure. That's great, right? So it's actually created within 2 minutes right now. We got fast approval and provisioning times since we're using GSM solution, and it notify all the stakeholders, so the budget approvers, everybody, notify them via email, and they actually pay attention to those things and they approve it quite fast. And next thing is you can get started right away. It takes minutes, and you're not blocked with your use cases. You don't need to wait for any person to get you set up, right? And last thing is, since it's implemented inside Microsoft, it's flexible and customizable AI service. All right. The additional benefits of Azure, I want to emphasize this one more time. Access to the whole Microsoft ecosystem. You have access to embedding service. You get access to Azure AI search. You get access to the VM service. You can deploy VMs. You can deploy Kubernetes cluster. You can deploy containers, whatever you like. You can deploy your applications, infrastructure, networking, everything else beside your AI models to have it embedded into your enterprise landscape, right? Plus, you have built-in controls for data access, encryption, compliance certifications. It's ready to be used in enterprise environment. Right, so by this point, we have a good understanding of why we're using OpenAI in Azure, as well as what kind of challenges we're trying to solve. It's time to present the solution, self-service for OpenAI models in Azure. We like to see the self-service as a vending machine, which does not require a human operator and works all on its own, right? So you basically load the services into this vending machine. And by the way, it can be used for other things, not only for OpenAI. Here is a use case we have, but we also use it for various things. If you're curious, feel free to ask questions in a Q&A section. And basically, you load the services such as give me an OpenAI model. Your users come, they click a button, and they have it. Going to see it in the demo later. The self-service combines the best of two worlds, right? So that's how it works. Basically, on one side is Atlassian, which provides the Jira service management solution. And on the other side, you have Azure. Atlassian enables us to create the self-service in fast and efficient manner. It's quite easy to do that. And you can also create the guides and golden paths, which can be used by your employees inside the company. It's not hard to do. And on the other hand, you have Azure, where you have a state-of-the-art ecosystem with secure and governed OpenAI service. So how does it work? Let's look at the technical details. The main part of the vending machine, the core of what enables it to operate as a vending machine, is Jira Service Management from Atlassian, or it was called Jira Service Desk previously. Some of you might know it by that name. In particular, we're using approvals and automation from GSM to drive delivery of what the vending machine can offer. Let me guide you through the process, right? So here's the process from beginning from where the user requests something. First of all, user gonna navigate to the GSM customer portal where they will see an interface offering various services. In our case, it's gonna be OpenAI service creation, which we're gonna see in the demo later. The user create a request, and the first step for the request is to be approved, right? So approvals can be necessary due to budget allocation or for security reasons. You can define any sort of approvals depending on the business process you have inside your organization. After approvals are done, GSM automation kicks in and starts an external automation pipeline. Right, so after GSM triggers an automation pipeline, we can take a look at how the automation process actually works. Just to clarify, we're not talking at this point at the GSM automation, but we are talking about external application or a pipeline running, for example, in GitHub Actions. There are two possibilities on how such a pipeline can be triggered: a pull on the left side of the screen or a push on the right side of the screen. In a push scenario, an application will collect all the requests from the users using Jira query language. So it's going to query Jira instance and then process them one by one. In a push scenario, Your Jira instance, every time an GSM request is created, gonna send a request to GitHub Actions with a JSON payload, and this will trigger necessary automation and do the actions such as creating a GPT model inside Azure AI. There are pros and cons of each solution. For example, using a push scenario is much simpler as it is decoupled from GSM. This interface is triggered by an API call, and you can easily trigger it from your local machine, or you can trigger it from other pipeline or wherever you want. As long as you have a token, you can use a curl command to trigger these, or any sort of client which supports HTTP protocol, right? On the other hand, in a push scenario, you have a tighter integration with GSM, which enables you to easily reprocess issues, run processing on schedule, write comments back into the issues from inside the automation. One drawback here is that your automation will require access token to your GSM project. So in this case here on the left, your automation will have access to your Jira instance. What happens after triggering is finished? The automation will run, right? So we have implemented the automations on top of GitHub Actions. However, you may use Jenkins, Bitbucket, Circle CI, or any other CI/CD service you have available inside your company. It doesn't matter. At this step, so when the business logic step is finished, this might be it, but it is not sufficient. First of all, automation needs to inform the user where she can find the OpenAI service. So you have to communicate back to the user and tell them like, hey, look, here is your endpoint. You can find your keys in the corporate secret store. And that's how you use it, right? Moreover, we want to build on top of automations in the long run. So you have these OpenAI service provisioning. And for example, I want to extend it and I want to have a capability to delete OpenAI services when the project is over. So how will I do that? The answer is that I need to store everything which is business logic doing here. So I need to store the OpenAI endpoint created in Azure in a database. And GSM provides a database for that. It's called Assets Management. It comes together with GSM and it integrates with GSM pretty neatly. So when you store your OpenAI endpoint there, you can access it in the next request. And basically, this allows you to extend your self-service portal to build on top of each of the services you provide and grow there as a platform team, right? Let's talk a little bit more about the business logic part. So GitHub Actions are triggering infrastructure as code for creation of subscription resource groups and OpenAI service itself. There is a classical route of using Terraform or OpenTofu to create the infrastructure. However, I would recommend using ARM templates directly or via Bicep, which is a construct on top of ARM templates, as the state management is simplified there. It's simpler than in Terraform. For adding and removing user groups, we simply invoke Azure CLI commands in the case of OpenAI. So why ARM templates is preferential to Terraform or OpenTofu? Terraform requires state management, right? So when you run a Terraform pipeline, you need to store state. It can be inside AWS S3 bucket. It can be inside storage account in Azure or somewhere else. This, in general, increases complexity of the pipeline, and when not using the best practices, can lead to anti-patterns, such as having thousands of objects in a single Terraform state. What it leads to is that your refresh time of a Terraform, so before Terraform can actually say what it's going to do, going to take 30, 40 minutes, which is not that convenient, and will lead to fewer changes, as well as going against DevOps principle. And what you can have is there can be a person on Friday afternoon who's gonna push it and go home, right? And it will take 40 minutes to get Maybe it's gonna be fine, maybe it's not gonna be fine. But the thing is, that person already gonna be home, and on Friday afternoon, the pipeline can be broken. It's crucial that your pipeline run in a short time and it provide immediate feedback to your engineers. So on the other hand, ARM templates, they do not need a state, right? So ARM template represent the state of the infrastructure you would like to have, and every time you apply it, it will update infrastructure to that particular state. Here's one question remaining. How do I remove the users from the groups, right? So I created Azure AI service. I added a person who requested it to this service. And the question here is, how do I add more users? Or maybe how do I remove that user who requested OpenAI service? And how do I manage access in general for that kind of thing? And for that purpose, we're using GSM Assets Database. That's what I mentioned already on a previous slide. Let me explain these in a little bit more details. So Assets is a NoSQL key value storage. It is extensible and can store any kind of information. What's beautiful about it is that all the metadata stored in assets can be used in further requests. So it's tightly integrates in GSM. And by the way, it's not available separately. To have this database, you have to run GSM. And when you save the object to this database, you can reuse them in a further request down the line. For example, you might run a request to add a user to a user group, and this will be saved in assets. And then you can visualize which users got access to which groups in your corporate wiki. And in the further request, you can easily remove that user from a group if she does not need access anymore. For example, person got switched to other projects inside your organization. Right. So we are at the last section before the demo. I would like to explain very shortly user journey for discovering OpenAI services in organization. This is very important consideration when implementing a self-service portal, since the self-service portal needs to be found before anybody can use it. Since we cannot search the corporate internet using public search engines, the main question to ask yourself here is, where does the user start typically? Maybe they have corporate notebook which they open and the internet is just popping up. Maybe there is some another discovery process. We believe that there are 3 user paths here. Please reach out to the chat if you think there are more. It's going to be interesting to hear from you. So the first one is to ask a colleague, right? Can go to the nearby desk or to the people you work with daily if you're remote and just ask them like, hey, how do I get OpenAI service? I need one. Maybe you know a person or you know where to look. The second one is search internet, the corporate wiki or a corporate knowledge base. And finally, the last and the best option, in my opinion, if you already know that there is a self-service portal, which is go there and you request what you need. In the ideal situation, everybody in the company is aware of this self-service portal, right? So that was communicated in maybe internal meetings, in town halls, in stand-ups, and everybody's aware of that. The whole organization, if you're in a big enterprise, all 60,000 people working there, they all know about the self-service portal. They all know how to get OpenAI endpoint, right? In the second case, people might not know about self-service portal, but they know about corporate wiki. So it's really crucial to put an article about your self-service portal in the corporate wiki and advertise it several times through a year that everybody got awareness. How does it look like, right? So we installed using Confluence Clouds, and basically to have to advertise internally our self-service portal, I have created an article how to create Azure OpenAI service. I put a button here where people can click on it and they're going to navigate to the service itself, to the request form. And I described what we're doing here, how would you use it, etc., right? The second thing is in the self-service portal itself, there is a search form, and you can search through it, and you basically will find it there as well. We provide one support portal internally in Salt, and inside there is this search which you can use to find OpenAI service, or if you need an AWS account or something else. All right, that's gonna be it from my side. Right now it's demo time. Chris, please take over and let's do the demo.
Then let's get going. So as you can see, this is the live version of the Jira Service Management demo. For the purposes of this, we just have this one service that you can request to keep things simple. And this is also the design principle behind using JSM as a portal here in general, right? We want to make things as easy to use as possible so that people can directly get started with what they actually want without any kind of platform getting in their way, but instead it should help them. So what we want to do is request an OpenAI service today. So we just click on that. Then when we built this, GPT 4.0 wasn't out yet. So we only have the choice between 3.5 and 4 here. And in general, the availability of the different version models and also the services that can be used in general depend on the location as well. So this is something to keep in mind. So let's just say we want GPT version 4, and then you can just say something in the description field here that talks about your use case maybe, right? And as soon as you click on send, this request actually goes out. And what you can see here is then that your request was created, right? And the status changes to waiting for approval. Right now, I could approve or decline this myself, but that is not necessary because for the demonstration purpose, this is set to automatically approve. In production, you might want to have another person fact check it though. So this is the step where you can also put a safeguard in so that not just any service is created, but that, for example, the manager has to approve before the individual people get access to the service. What we can do now is basically just refresh this. And then we will see that the status is changed to resolved. Right, if we want to double check on what we actually requested, we can do this here to see our description and version again. And then we will have this helpful comment from our automation here. And this basically gives us the links which we need so that we can access the resources. In this instance, namely, this is the OpenAI endpoint that we want to integrate with, then the keys for accessing the endpoints, and also a link to navigate to the OpenAI Studio. And if you're new to the entire Azure OpenAI service, the OpenAI Studio is actually the place where you want to start because it gives you a nice and helpful overview to just get started and try things out immediately. What you can do now is this will take like 3 to 4 minutes on the Azure side. So I have also made a request yesterday, which you can see here. And if we follow this link here, you will get redirected to this resource inside Azure. And what you can see here is a few things. On the one hand, you can see the location of this account, which is important for the kinds of services it offers and the models that are available to you. So for European regions, for instance, in Azure, only Sweden Central has GPT-4 and also the DALI image generation. This is something that you would not find in all of the other European regions. What you can also access here is your endpoint and your keys to access that. So this is also where you would need to go if you just want to know how you can get started to integrate the OpenAI service with your existing application. What we want to do, on the other hand, is go to the Azure OpenAI Studio. And if you click on that, you will just see this overview. The first steps section is very interesting because it shows you all the different things that you can do there. Right, you have different interactions that are possible here. You have some new features that are in development, like for image generation that you could try out, or for speech recognition. But what you can also do is just use the chat playground, which I have open in this tab over here. right? And this gives you an interface that is pretty similar to the OpenAI chat interface. And you can use this just exactly how you would use the OpenAI interface, and you can just um, put in your query here, but you can also talk to it, right? So if you have configured it this way, you wouldn't even need to type anything. You can just talk to it, and then speech to text will input your query for you. And if we then just ask GPT, for instance, what are some of the differences in the climate and winter between London and New York, then it will just generate the answer for you. If we wait a little bit, right, it is continuously refreshing. And then it will tell you that winters are in general a bit colder and longer than in New York than in London because of the maritime climate that London gets to benefit from. Okay, and this is something that you can use for any kind of use case, right? Do you want to use it for text generation? If you want to write an email, that's a possibility. Do you want to do some kind of business analysis where you present it with a task and you want the AI to serve as your proofreading expert? That is also something that you can do. And this is the, um, in general, most user-friendly use case just to get started with this and to be able to use the AI that you just created. Now, another thing that you can do, if you just jump back to the AI Studio, is that you can also use your own data and your custom data sets, right? So if you click on this, you will be presented with this form where you can choose different sources for data input. And what you have here is basically a few different Azure services, right? So you can use the AI search for this, you can use blob storage or Cosmos DB. But what you can also do is something that Microsoft still has in preview for now, but you can already try it out, is that you can just add a URL or web address, for instance, to a knowledge base article for your company, or you can even upload your own custom files, right? And if you do this, you will get fine-tuned answers that might be directly correlated to your business use case, and that may be just that much more relevant to you compared to a more general analysis of what GPT-4 would give you without access to the custom data set, right? So these are two of the possible things that you can do here. And as I mentioned, there's other things as well, right? You can use image creation, um, and you can integrate it more tightly. And this is just the quick demo that shows you how easy it is to use it. And I think it's pretty straightforward, but if there's any questions or if you would like to know more about use cases in detail or things that we have already implemented on the customer side, then feel free to ask any questions, because I think I'm going to hand it back to Ivan, and then we are more or less moving straight into our Q&A section.
Thanks, Chris. I just want to add one more point here. If you already have Azure onboarded inside your organization, you're going to have easier time convincing your compliance to get Azure OpenAI than to onboard another vendor, right? Because OpenAI in this case is going to be one more vendor. So getting into the Azure ecosystem give you all of the goodies they have, like VMs, Kubernetes cluster, etc., plus access to OpenAI. Just wanted to emphasize this. Right, I'm gonna take the screen share. Thanks a lot, Chris. Let me see. Chris, you actually have to stop sharing, I think, or?
Oh, I think you took over, but I can also stop.
All right. Thanks a lot. So you think it sounds great? Feel free to reach out to us. We are here to help. Right? We have experience doing DevOps, building DevOps culture inside companies, as well as doing the self-service and building up the platform teams. To start with, we offer you this free state of DevOps analysis, which you can run with a free checklist inside your company. And we can take a look at this together and see where you can improve. And of course, if you just say, yes, I want self-service in my company, just reach out to us. We're here to help. We can give you a demo in more detail and answer all of your questions and make a roadmap together with you. Now we are open for questions.
Maybe while we wait for the first questions to trickle in, there's something that I've been wondering about as well, right? When we built the demo, GPT-4 was the most recent model released, and now we have GPT-4o. What would you say? How much work does it take if you have this set up already to integrate a new model like this once it is released?
All right, here's actually I can tell you the difference between OpenAI and Azure OpenAI. In Azure OpenAI, you have to create another endpoint, so you'll have to create another endpoint for with another model, and programmatically, basically, what you will have to do is you'll have to change the URL, which is going to pointing to your endpoint, and you'll have to change the credentials. So there is a login and password. Great thing about it, since you're going to have separate endpoints, you have much higher limits on throttling. On other hand, when you change this, when using OpenAI, so using the ChatGPT, um, you just change the model with a flag, right? Which is much easier. You don't have to change endpoint. You don't have to change credentials. You have API key. You change a flag. You got another model. A bit different. Um, but yeah, I hope that answered the question.
Mhm. Okay, the first question to come in is a question of where the data is located, right? So I guess it's about when you upload your own custom data, and then just to know how Azure handles the data residency of it.
Right. So I would like to reiterate this, like what already was mentioned during the presentation. Basically, there are two different models, right? So if you use OpenAI, it's gonna locate your data either in Ireland if you're in Europe, or it's gonna locate your data in the US. Now, there are two type of things they store, or let's phrase it differently. When you send something to ChatGPT and you're not paying for it, everything you send to it gonna be used to train the model. So it's like you submit your data to Facebook. You can think about it like you publicly post on Facebook. However, if you're paying for OpenAI, so you're paying for ChatGPT, the not the Azure one, but from OpenAI one, right? You have an opt-out option, so you can say, please do not store my history, and please do not use it to train the model. So everything you send to it will not be used by the company. On the other hand, the communication, so how the network works, is not transparent, and it might be sent over the ocean to the US from Europe. Now, when it comes to Asia, you have a possibility to restrict your data storage to a particular region. So you can say it's Sweden Central, or it's Frankfurt, Germany. I only want to store my data here. Moreover, by default, it does not use your data to enhance the model. So it will not use your data to train the models. You can do it on your own. You can load your data and you can fine tune the models and use it in the region which you selected. So you can fine tune the model in Sweden, you can fine tune the model in Germany. It's gonna be in Germany, and the data you're gonna send gonna stay in Europe. I hope that answer the question.
That's also already the transition a bit into the second question, which was what happens to the model we train, right? So when you fine tune it and you use the service in a specific region, let's say Germany, Frankfurt, right? Then the fine tuned model also exists within that region, right?
I want to emphasize that Microsoft invested a lot of money in the recent years to be compliant on European markets. The GDPR compliance, they have compliancy for the banking sector, and they are very good with that. If you need any sort of legal documents, you can request it from them, and we as an Azure partners, we have access uh, to Azure contacts where we can also request it for you if you'd like.
Yeah,
Right? There's
and
almost
the same is obviously also true for the US, right? Since you also asked about this. So the emphasis that we hear from our customers, because we are a bit more European focused, is that GDPR comes up very often, right? And we actually talk to the to the head of Microsoft when it comes to data privacy in Europe, and he explained to us that they can handle that very well. And I would imagine that the same also applies to the US, right? So in general, the data doesn't leave a region, and I know this for sure that you can do this for the European ones. But if they have already implemented this for one continent, I think they also have it for another. I just didn't check the specifics of the FedRAMP um, guidelines yet. So I would have to follow up on that, but I think they will handle it in a similar case. They've basically already done the work, so why would it not be available? I also can't really think that Microsoft would implement a feature in Europe this way, but not have it for the US.
I think what Microsoft provides also in some of the countries, like in China, there is a separate cloud. They basically have separate data centers which are only for China, and in the US they provide so-called government cloud, right? And when you get access to government clouds, that part of Asia is compliant with the governmental compliance certifications which are required in the US.
Yeah, and I guess for the FedRAMP, then it would be the Azure region, right? I think it's called a government zone or something like that, right? So it's not, it's different from the other US availability zones. There's a special dedicated one that is used for um, government agencies and institutes. Yep.
Okay. Are there any more questions from the audience? Ivan and Chris, we still have like 3 minutes left to answer some additional ones. Otherwise, thank you for listening. Thank you for attending. And we will send out a recording of the webinar within the next few days, so you can also check it out again or send it to your colleagues. Right.
Just one more thing. I quickly searched for it, and the FedRAMP is so Azure OpenAI is approved as a service within FedRAMP, high authorization for Azure Commercial. Right? I sent a blog article. It looks like yes, indeed, it works. Right. Thanks, Mario.
I think Iris also raised her hand. Do you have any other question?